Hello, this is my top 5 and bottom 5 movies of 2014, the year just gone by. This is limited to movies I've seen. I have not seen every movie. The bottom list especially is going to be limited to movies that I've seen. For example, I'm relatively sure that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a terrible film, or at least not a very good film, but I didn't go and see it because I already thought it was going to be a bad film. So the bottom list will often be films that a lot of people actually liked, but I didn't. Advanced warning on that one. But we'll start with the top 5, my favourite 5. Number 5, Gone Girl. I really like David Fincher. He's one of my favourite directors, and I pretty much own almost all of his movies. I just love his films. And Gone Girl is a brilliant film. It is not his best film, I don't think by a long shot, but it's certainly a very good film. I won't go into any detail about it because the midpoint twist is basically what makes the film. Or I mean, the film would still be good even if it was more predictable, but that you just have to you kind of have to watch it and be like, whoa, this is. See, I couldn't even think of a way to react to that. I had to just cut to this. But yeah, no, Gone Girl is a brilliant thriller with a classically fantastic twist that just makes it even better. Number 4 is the Lego Movie. The Lego Movie is just pure fun. It's just fantastic comedy fun in every way, but it's also really clever. I've done videos about the Lego Movie before, but it was a surprising film, a surprisingly good film. You kind of went into it thinking, yeah, they've made a silly sort of cash-in film about Lego, but they actually did something way smarter than I think most people really expected them to. It goes in a surprising direction. So again, it's got a surprising twist. But yeah, no, it just turned out to be about something, and you kind of just at first it just seems like it's just going to be a silly film, but the silliness is so when you realize what's really going on, the silliness is so integral to the story, or it makes so much more sense that suddenly the silliness seems clever on a second watching. All the silliness is clever on a level that you didn't realise it was. But yeah, no, Lego Movie is just a brilliant movie. Odds are you've seen it because it seems like everyone's seen it. But yeah, no, Lego Movie, my number 4. Number 3 is the Grand Budapest Hotel. I really loved the Grand Budapest. I really loved the Grand Budapest Hotel. It was very funny. It was touching and sweet and quite complicated. I love that it's bookended 3 times. It's bookended. It's a girl reading a book written by a guy who's telling a story of how when he was younger, another guy told him a story. And for no real reason. There's no logical. You don't need that. And it cuts between those, at the beginning and at the end only. And it's like, it has nothing. It's just odd. I don't know. It's very odd, very quirky, but very sort of serious subject matter still, and quite a dark and sad moments at times. But yeah, it's a very silly film. But yeah, no, I really liked it. I think it might be my favourite Anderson film so far. So yeah, the Grand Budapest Hotel, my number 3. My number 2, my number 1 are somewhat interchangeable. Depending on my mood, they will swap places from number 2 and number 1 last year. But my number 2 for now is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy is easily, for me, the best Marvel film made so far. It's just a fantastic film. It's a cut off enough from the Marvel Universe as well that you don't really need to know the Marvel Universe to watch it. You can watch it and just be wrapped up in the mythos and all the everything else about it without having to know what's going on elsewhere. It helps if you do know what's going on elsewhere, then you can see elements of this that you didn't see before, or you don't see if you don't, and it makes sense on another kind of level. But it works either way. It's detached enough that it will still work. It's got some great action sequences. It's very funny. It's one of the funnier of the Marvel films. The characters are wonderful. The set pieces just work really well. It has quite a powerful emotional ending. It probably has actually the most emotionally satisfying ending of any of the Marvel films thus far. It certainly has a better. Essentially, it has the same message of the Avengers. It's about this, sort of misfit group coming together and finding friendship. But it's more emotionally satisfying in Guardians than it was in the Avengers. In the Avengers, they just kind of did it because they thought, well, we have to do it. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy, you really feel like the characters have grown and they've learned something and they've achieved something by becoming friends and you're becoming a team. So yeah, no, it's really, really good film, really good. It would be, even if I wasn't a little bit of a Marvel fanboy, I think I'd still love this film. It's just fantastic. And my number one is going to be Frank. I really loved Frank. Frank was just a fantastic film. I've watched it over and over. I've got it on DVD and I've watched it over and over a few times now. Probably haven't watched it as much as I have Guardians of the Galaxy. I saw the Guardians of the Galaxy a few times in cinema and stuff, but yeah, no, I just like everything about Frank. It's one of those films I would put up with where there's nothing wrong with this film. I could point out things that are wrong in Guardians of the Galaxy, but yeah, Frank is just exactly what it needs to be. It's perfect. It's possible you didn't see this because it was a bit of an indie film. Domhnall Gleeson joins a sort of misfit band fronted by Michael Fassbender, who is a guy in a big, giant papier-mâché head that looks kind of silly and gimmicky at first, but then you realise he's actually kind of mentally fragile, and this is part of his psychosis, I guess is the word. And it unravels. And it starts out as a kind of quirky comedy, but as things sort of as Frank's condition, I suppose, starts to not come to light, but starts to play up, then you realise it's slowly going towards quite a dark place. And more interestingly, you realise that the main character, Domhnall Gleeson's character, who you've been following this whole time, is actually the person that's pushing it there. So he kind of becomes the villain by the end. But yeah, no, it's really interesting. It's really funny. For me, you'll notice probably that my top 5 now is predominantly comedy. Gone Girl is only non-comedy on this list. Well, not all of them are directly comedies, but they're all. Guardians of the Galaxy is a very funny film. But yeah, that's just me, I guess. But yes, I do recommend Frank. I try and show it to people as much as I can since I got it on DVD. And it's just a great film. Very funny and very emotionally satisfying, and the characters, with these very deep characters. And yeah, it's just a great film. Just check it out. Watch the trailer, and if the trailer doesn't make you laugh, because the trailer had me cracking up, then it's not for you. But yeah, if you watch the trailer, look up the trailer on YouTube now for Frank. Michael Fassbender would probably find it best for you. Yeah, no, just. So now the interesting part, my bottom 5 films. 5 films that I saw last year that I just wish I could get the time back. No more is that true than for number 5, Interstellar. Interstellar is just a boring ass movie. It was dull. It was way stupider than it thought it was. I know it was toying with big science ideas, and I have to assume that they, did quite well at that. And it's that, they'd obviously done their research, but it was dull and dumb and predictable, and I just didn't get it. I don't mean I didn't get it. I got it. I understood what was going on. I just didn't get why people thought it was good. Or did anyone think it was good? And it's quite relatively high up on. I mean, Frank, my number 1 best film, because I had a quick look on IMDb to refresh myself, is number 158 from popular films last year. 158. That's terrible. All these films of my worst films are higher than Frank, and Frank's a brilliant film. Interstellar is really near the top of the list somewhere. I can't remember what number it was, but Interstellar was a bad movie. It just was. It was just too dopey. It was a clever film for idiots. That's why I would describe it. It's a film that idiots think is probably smarter than it actually is. And I just found it really predictable. Really predictable. And it just wasn't. It was just bad. It was just a bad movie. Number 4 wasn't a terrible film, but it's being applauded as the greatest horror film since The Exorcist. I think I saw it written somewhere. And that's The Babadook. The Babadook was not a very good film. It was okay. The Babadook was a fairly good monster. The ending didn't really make any sense to me. I got the depression sort of thing, and her and the kid did it very well. They played the characters very well. They told the story. The story was very well. Everything about it was very well done. I just didn't like it that much. Yeah, I guess that's about it. It just didn't do anything for me. It was kind of silly, and it didn't feel like it was going anywhere. And a lot of it didn't seem like it really had any focus. I don't know. I just maybe I didn't get it, the bigger picture of it. But yeah, it just like best horror film since The Exorcist. Really, I don't get that at all. So yeah, The Babadook. I'm not sorry that I saw it. I'm glad I saw it. It's unlike Interstellar, which I wish I hadn't bothered to see. But yeah, I think it's slightly higher than Interstellar on this list, just because it has been so applauded, and I don't get it. I don't get why it wasn't that good. Number 3, we're getting into flat out bad films now. Sin City: A Dame to Kill For was an awful film. Interstellar was a bad film. This is an awful film. The top 3 are all terrible films that actually piss me off that they exist. I really like Sin City. I know it's fairly dopey as movies go, but I just like it. I just liked the style of it. I liked the structure and the stories. I thought Sin City worked really well. But this Dame's Kill For it's just terrible. It's all the worst, like a fanboy nonsensical love letter to Sin City. It's like somebody. It is like a fan film, actually. Now that I think about it, it is like somebody who watched Sin City and really wanted to make a film about how much they liked Sin City, and that's what this is. It's like a callback to as many characters that we liked from Sin City as possible, and Marv shows up as much as possible in this film, and it's just not necessary. His story was great in Sin City, and it concluded definitively. He died. If you spoilers for Sin City if you haven't seen Sin City yet, but yeah, his story was really tight and nice. And he just shows up in this film as much as possible. And why? Just fuck off. Okay? We all like Marv, but we don't need... It's such a fan-satisfying nonsense. It was just bad. It was just a terrible film that really, really didn't need to get made. Really didn't need to take whatever it was, 10 years to get made. Can you not come up with something better than that in 10 fucking years? Jesus Christ. But yeah, no. Dame's Kill For just bad. So disappointing as well. When I was one of the films of this year, last year, sorry, I was really looking forward to, and it just crushed my soul. Number 2 comes with a quick caveat. I did not like The Amazing Spider-Man. I thought The Amazing Spider-Man was a crap film. Having said that, I went to see The Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I like Spider-Man. I do like Spider-Man as a character. I like the Sam Raimi films. I used to watch a Spider-Man cartoon. I guess I went to see Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I really wanted it to be good. Really wanted it to be good. And Kaylee saw it actually before me and said it was good. She liked it. So I thought, well, alright, fine, let's go. It's bad. It's really, really bad. It's not as bad as the first one, but that is not much of a compliment. The thing about this one is, there is one thing I really liked, and I really liked Electro. I just liked it. I just liked the character, everything, all the scenes, all of his scenes, his origin story and everything, worked really well, but they were not part of this film. They did not match with anything else in this film. It was like Tim Burton from the Batman era snuck on and directed those scenes and wrote those scenes instead. And like nobody else in the film involved in the film knew about them. They were entirely separate. And that sort of campy, silly nonsense that would have fit in with the Sam Raimi films, for example, and that worked really well. And it's refreshing because nothing really does it. Even the Marvel movies that are kind of jokey, they don't do that campy nonsense anymore. We don't have that, the original, like I said, the Tim Burton Batmans or the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, that campy silliness of comics. Comics are very stupid. Comics are silly, really silly. That's why, I'm sure comic books fans would debate that comics don't get enough respect, but comic books are silly. Sorry, they just are. But that campy silliness is missing, and I liked it to see it in this film. It's just nothing else in the film worked. I found it near impossible to give a shit about Gwen Stacy, partly because, as anyone who knows Spider-Man knows, she was bound to die. That's her thing. What do you want me to tell you? It was flagpole a mile off as well, so you could see that it was going to happen. It was about as shocking a twist as Talia al Ghul in The Dark Knight Rises. I'm sure that if you don't know the story, yeah, you were surprised, but it doesn't. It was still a little bit obvious. And if you know anything about the universe, then it's not even vaguely surprising. Second of all, the Green Goblin didn't even work at all. The Green Goblin was awful as a villain, terrible. None of his story made any sense at all. I just didn't see the point of that, And then the setup for the Sinister Six, it's just, again, it's boring. It's made that concept dull. It's like, why introduce these characters when we can just have that happen instead? There they are. I just don't know. I'm not that up to date on the gossip news, so I don't know if it has basically just killed the new Spider-Man franchise, or if it's still going to keep going. I know it said that Andrew Garfield won't be coming back as Spider-Man or something. I don't know. I could have researched that, but I can't be bothered. But yeah, no, I kind of hope it's killed their Spider-Man plans, because it needs to have. I just don't see that going anywhere good. That was a huge disappointment, that, because yeah, I was looking forward to it. I don't know why I was looking forward to it, but again, I was, and disappointed. Number 1 is another terrible film and a massive disappointment. X-Men: Days of Future Past is a shit film. Really, really, really shit film. It's just terrible. I don't understand why anyone likes this film. It's really, really bad. X-Men First Class is probably the only really good X-Men film that there is. The first X-Men film's okay, and the second one, I don't know, I kind of felt like I thought the second one was better at the time, but watching it back, it's kind of not. But I think X-Men was good at the time when it came out, when there wasn't really that much superhero competition, or if indeed there was any superhero competition. X-Men was quite surprising, and it was kind of kept itself kind of serious and leveled, and that kind of worked. I hadn't necessarily seen that again. I hadn't really seen that before in superhero movies. I mean, First Class was a really good film, but dropping everything that happened, basically screwing everything that happened in First Class up into a big ball and chucking it away, and then tying this reboot into the old films, which were largely kind of shit. Not shit, but not very good. At best, very forgettable. See, I remember liking the first X-Men film, but I don't really remember it. It didn't particularly stick with me. I haven't watched it at any time. I don't feel the need to watch it again. I like watching the old Batmans and things, like Tim Burton's Batman and things, but I never feel the need to dig out the old X-Men film. What's the point of that? And so it tied it into a universe tied it back into the universe that I didn't really care about in the first place, and was never that impressed by, and it undid all the good stuff that happened in First Class. Seeing a film that was a continuation from First Class, an actual proper sequel to First Class, which was about Charles building up the school, that would have been interesting, with Magneto off doing whatever he was doing. But instead we got this weird film that was just like, fuck First Class. That was basically the message of this film. Fuck First Class. We're gonna drag up all these old characters that you didn't really give a shit about. It was an odd film. It just didn't seem incredible, massive misstep. Who looked at it and thought this seemed like a good idea? I really don't understand the mindset of anyone that thought Days of Future Past was a good idea, because it was not on any level. It was just terrible film based on a terrible idea, and I'm genuinely surprised that it got made. It's just one of those decisions that makes you question, I think, the film industry, and just think that it's possible for somebody to not notice how bad an idea is. and it to go that far. I don't. If you like Days of Future Past, I will forgive probably any of the others. But if you liked Days of Future Past, you're a bad person. Stop it. So that's that. Hopefully that wasn't too long. Those are top and bottom 5 films of 2014. Looking forward to 2015. Some good films coming out this year. Fingers crossed. Yes. The end.